I almost have to stop and think to even remember the name of our next movie, which is The Squeeze, a horrible title. Who can remember a title like The Squeeze?
You couldn't remember...
Certainly not me.
You couldn't remember a lot about The Squeeze. Go ahead.
When we had a conference call to decide, I'm going to tell this story, we had a conference call to decide what movies to put on this show,
right.
And The Squeeze was mentioned. I couldn't even remember the name of the movie. I couldn't remember having seen it. They said, you saw it Friday. I said, who was in it? They said, Michael Keaton.
You said,
Ray
what's
Dawn
it about?
Chung. Oh, yeah, that movie. Right. This movie is like an occasion. I have to be honest and tell you this. It doesn't make me a bad movie critic that I forgot this movie. I think I could give anyone a test. 6 days after they saw this movie, they'd flunk every question. This movie is vapor. It just goes into your head and evaporates. This is chewing gum for the mind. That is an insult to chewing gum.
From Julie Newmar to Michelle Pfeiffer, Catwoman has always been sexy, but she's kind of a goofy superhero. I mean, what does she do? Eat mice, cough up fur balls, ignore you when you call her? I mean, I can tell you this much, though. Halle Berry is probably the first Oscar winner who has put on an S&M leather outfit and purred like a kitty cat. This is barely a film. It's more like a music video slash TV commercial slash computer game. Berry gives one of her worst performances since Babs, but it's not really her fault. She's saddled with an inconsistent character who is boring by day and not really menacing at night. Catwoman keeps saying she's half good, half bad, but we never see any evil leanings, really. She just puts on the leather and the lip gloss, cracks the whip a few times, and makes some really bad puns. This is a terrible movie.
There are 3 good things in it.
Okay.
Halle Berry's face, Halle Berry's body, and Halle Berry's costumes.
Okay.
Those are first rate. Everything else in this movie is unbelievably bad. This is a really bad
movie. Can you believe it?
First, there is no chemistry between Benjamin Bratt and Halle Berry.
No.
None. None.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good thing that it's PG-13 and the love scene was off screen because it probably would have been boring.
Unbelievably.
Except for the scratch he gets, of course.
Yeah.
Our next film is called Prince of Darkness, and yes, it's about the devil, about the opening of an age-old canister and who escapes? Evil personified. You know what I mean. It's evil. It's bad. It's naughty.
Did you say it was the devil or not?
I would say roughly it's the devil. And this guy plays by a whole different set of rules, where up is down, in is out, I can't talk right, and all kinds of different rules. And if you're not careful, you're going to be destroyed in this movie. And there you have it, a thrilling depiction of a man possessed. He's banging somebody's head against the wall. They could have come up with something better than that. And there you have your lesson for the day. Do not become a research student in a project involving the devil. Don't sign up for that class. Take gym or something.
It's called Resident Evil Apocalypse, and it's a sequel to one of the worst movies of 2002. This one recycles the same material into one of the worst movies of 2004. It's a chaotic and truly lame-brained zombie movie about an evil corporation that once again opens up its secret lab and once again releases a virus that once again inspires lots and lots and lots of shots of zombies getting their brains blown out. Here's a scene I love. Watch how Mila Jovovich comes to the rescue by crashing her motorcycle through the stained glass window. Now, what I want to know is, how could she know what was on the other side of the glass, and how did she know where she'd be able to land on her bike?
And you know, you make a good point about the whole zombie culture, because you know, vampires and werewolves, they have a whole code.
They have personalities.
And there's a certain thing you can affect them this way, and they think sometimes, and they can actually carry a movie. But zombies are always hungry, and they kind of walk like zombies, and they're easily killed. So until somebody can come up with this good zombie movie that tells us maybe the zombie story. What do the zombies do when they're done eating? And every time people get bit, they always go, "Oh, I'll be okay, I'll be okay." And nobody ever wants to shoot their friend who got bit, even though they know that the friend's going to turn into a zombie. Really a dreadful piece of work.
The fantasy sequences in Naked Lunch are so far out with creatures that resemble talking bug buttocks in one situation, and actually more than one situation, that they are all very funny by themselves. So funny, I think that it almost hurts the rest of the fantasy, which is pretty good at capturing a writer's paranoia. A mixed review for me, because the picture really splits into 2 parts, the writer's fantasies and these bug creatures. I can't exactly recommend it, but I'm glad I saw it.
You know, in a long time of reviewing movies, I've rarely seen a movie that leaves me more at a loss for words.
Well, I had that reaction. I
admire what Cronenberg and Weller and Davis have done here.
Right.
It's a very good job. It is a brilliant job. It is one of the most unpleasant movies I've ever seen, and I hated most of it. I guess I have to vote thumbs down, but at the same time with a footnote that I admire what he did, and I hate it.
Okay, strange.
Matthew McConaughey, Penelope Cruz, and Steve Zahn have incredibly fast camels in Sahara. I'm Richard Roeper.
And I'm Roger Ebert, and I think I'm on fairly safe ground when I say that the new thriller named Sahara has the most preposterous plot I have ever seen. And I've seen every one of the Indiana Jones movies, not to mention Armageddon. Now, I don't mind that it's preposterous, I'm just pointing it out. There was a point at which the three heroes find themselves inside the mastermind's evil factory, and there was no way to understand how they got in there, and later there was no way to understand how they got out, even though the movie follows them every step of the way. I give Sahara points for energy, for imagination, and for sheer audacity, and I give it a thumbs up.
Wow! Wow, you are the king of generosity.
No.
It is so awful. And
No,
you're
it's
right,
not awful.
Roger.
It's
well,
not awful.
I understand what you're saying. It does have a lot of energy, and it's
It is
so
a
over
Saturday
the top,
matinee entertainment.
but it's just so ridiculous.
Oh, but
and
that's
so
okay.
Stupid.
So you think James Bond is credible, right?
Well, you know, but everybody in James Bond, in those movies, actually acts as if it could happen. And Matthew McConaughey is just doing bad Burt Reynolds, wink at the camera stuff here. And I love Penelope Cruz. You know she's a doctor because she has glasses and they put her hair in a bun. So
Yeah.
okay, Doc, thanks for stopping
Well, she
by
has
and
a little
saving the
red
world.
cross on her.
Yeah.
Okay, earlier on this show, we reviewed Ed Wood, a marvelous movie about a man who made sincerely awful pictures. Well, maybe Ed would have liked Rapa Nui, which is certainly goofy and assuredly awful, telling a fanciful adventure story about the natives of Easter Island in the South Pacific and the massive stone statues they erected there. The statues were created to appease the gods, and the building process was the means by which the island's leaders kept their subordinates in check. Here, build me a statue.
You know, Gene, I'm going to have to vote thumbs down on this one. I really am. But on the other hand, in the spirit of Ed Wood, there was just something to be said for a movie that has a line of dialogue such as, "I'm busy. I've got chicken entrails to read."
I know, it's
That was a
strange.
great line. And also the whole mythology of the Cave of the White Virgin, where she has to go in there and stay in there for 6 months, and then this ridiculous race, and then, of course, they do everything wrong in order to drop the egg, and then the difference between the long ears and the short ears, and then the senile old king who's always, you know, kind of confused, and his advisor is shouting, saying, you know, "Now say, go!" And he goes, "Go!"
Yeah, and talking also sometimes in a very modern style,
really,
too.
you know, just push it a little bit more over the top, and this is Hot Shots Goes to the Pacific.
But I have to say thumbs down for me, Roger.
It's harmless, though.
It is harmless, and I understand why kids maybe 4, 5, 6 years old and under like SpongeBob. Now, as far as the parents and the college kids, and I know that is like a cult thing, the parents like it because it keeps the kids occupied for a half hour. So,
I know at
and
least,
the college kids like it because I believe they're on drugs. If they're entertained by this, they must be on drugs.
Well, I don't know if we need to go as far as a diagnosis. I know a couple of parents who like it because they like it. They
not
just
saying the
think it's
parents
silly,
are. I'm
silly
saying-
and innocent and bright.
Well, I'm saying if you are a non-parent and you're entertained by this,
Okay, well,
wow, good for you. This is one of the dopiest movies of the year. Thumbs down.
It's dopey, all right, but thumbs up for me. I thought it was
You
fun
are
from
kidding
beginning to
me.
end. I had a great time. It's kind of a monster
What?
mash. You have Dracula and you have Frankenstein. You have the Wolfman.
Yeah.
They're all together. The plot is not murky. Dracula needs
come on.
Dr. Frankenstein's secret of life in order to activate his own babies who were born dead because, of course, he's dead. Now, I thought that made perfect sense.
Oh, yeah, that makes perfect sense. And I agree with you. I mean, there's a lot of fun with it in the first maybe half hour or so, and then it just gets so ridiculous and so
didn't
stupid
bother me.
that it drove me
It would have
crazy. It
bothered
made
me
National
more.
Treasure look like a documentary.
It would have bothered me more if it hadn't gotten ridiculous.
Yeah, well, you are the king of kindness on this one, my
Thank you
friend.
very much. Thank you.
I'm glad you enjoyed
I am happy
this.
that the
I hope you.
the
I hope you
balm,
get to see. May
the
you
balm of human generosity spreads perhaps from my side of the aisle to yours one of these years.
May you spend an afternoon seeing Sahara 2 someday as your punishment for recommending this
May
one.
a diseased yak make
Yeah,
love to your
exactly.
sister's
Thank
kneecap.
you very much. That's funnier than anything I saw in Sahara.